This is Sarah, block editor. I'm here with Sam Steffanina, one of your Neo Tokyo citizens, the co-founder of Wolf's DAO, and the creator and host of Gamified and Simplified. This series of interviews is designed to introduce citizens to their notable community members. So we're going to jump right in. First of all, welcome, Sam. Nice to have you on again.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure. I think it's been over a year now, and man, a lot has happened in that year. So super excited to catch up with you some more.
Well, I've seen a lot of what you're doing, and I know a lot of it has changed. We did do the pre-crypto background before, but it was a great story, and it's probably lost in the vaults of neotokyo.codes. So let's do it again. Give us who you were before you got into crypto.
Man, whenever I got out of the restaurant industry, I was like a chef for 4 or 5 years, kind of when I first started out, and decided to go into consulting. Started doing very technical, very boring software consulting for big corporations like Smithfield Foods and Amazon. Very quickly realized that was not for me. Got into something a little bit more fun, which was working with my brother, dominating the dance niche on YouTube. We grew to 13 million subscribers on our main channel, 3 million and 4 million on 2 other channels. And then that doesn't include, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and stuff, which are all in the millions as well. And then fast forward from there, got into Web3 Gaming about 3 years ago and completely changed my life. And now I'm in something that I'm much more intrigued by, which is the intersection of emerging technology and gaming, which is super exciting.
Now, I remember you telling me this before with the numbers on YouTube, and those are some impressive numbers. And I know you received some kind of award for a creator. What was that again?
Yeah, so my brother actually won Content Creator of the Year from the GamesG Awards, I think it was, back in 2018. And then I won Content Creator of the Year last November, the most recent fan voting on GamesGG for Web3 Gaming Content Creator of the Year.
And do you have any educational background, marketing? How did you guys get these crazy social media response?
So much of it really comes down to, I think, being in the right place at the right time and creating the thing that you wish existed. My brother and I were actually both homeschooled. My brother went to a little bit of community college. I did absolutely zero. My brother did a little bit of public schooling. I did absolutely zero. And we were both just kind of chronically online and chronically interested in what sort of ways the technology was changing the world. And so my brother, whenever we were growing up, would buy these incredibly expensive DVDs off of infomercials, basically, because he really wanted to learn how to break dance. But there was absolutely no access to that kind of thing living in a small town in Virginia. And so because of that, whenever we saw YouTube, it sort of clicked of man, instead of spending $100 on a DVD set and then you get the DVD set and it kind of sucks and there's all these points of friction, it's so expensive. Instead, what if we just put these videos out there for free and saw what happened? And we definitely would not have guessed that 13 million subscribers would be interested in dance. Now if you look at TikTok, it's even crazier, right? Charlie D'Amelio or whatever has probably 100 million subscribers or followers. So it's only gotten more popular as it's been more democratized and access has been increased across the board. There are some new issues that are created as a basis point for that, but really it was just, being in the right place of YouTube was emerging, but also being willing to take an undefined, unique path where we had no idea how we were going to make money off of it. We had no idea what the total market was. We just knew that my brother really wanted this, right? He would have been a consumer of this. And therefore, if he was, there's probably a bunch of other people that would be as well. And that ended up being pretty correct.
It's an amazing story. And I know we talked about this before, but I love to hear homeschool success stories. As I told you once, I homeschool my kids. No, they don't wear shoes. I know the stereotype is out there. They definitely don't wear those. But I have high hopes, and I see a lot of great things come from kids with unusual education backgrounds. So it's wonderful to see. Now you are huge in gaming and crypto. Give us the very beginning intro. What got you into blockchain and crypto?
Yeah, so I got to give another shout out to my brother. My brother was newer to crypto than I was, or earlier, I should say, and he was more in like DeFi, PFP, sort of Twitter, and he became a consumer of Becker and Elio trades. And one day while I was traveling, I was actually in an RV on my way to Canada, about to cross the border, and he called me, and there were three cars in front of me. And I pick up and I say, "Hey man, what's up?" He said, "Yo, you got a minute?" Well, not really. Probably like 5 minutes or something until I get up to Border Patrol. Like, what's going on? And he just gives me like the 60-second overview of like, "Hey man, I know you're not really into crypto, but like, there's this thing, crypto gaming. Somehow it involves. I don't really get it. I'm not as much of a gamer, but like, I think you would get it. So like, you should look into it and you should tell me what you think, because I think there's a lot of opportunity here." And I was like, okay, really focused on traveling right now, but like, sure, maybe I'll take a look. Like, send me some videos, I'll think about it. So he sends me the videos. I actually got denied from the Canadian border. They kicked us out because of it was COVID times and super intense up there. So a little side note there, but it took 3 months for me to actually watch the videos. We had come all the way back to our home in Northern California, parked the RV after the transmission exploded. So we left it in Wyoming, drove back in our other car. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll look into those crypto videos now that he was talking about. And, it wasn't instantaneous that I started spending, 14 hours a day looking at it, but it was pretty damn instantaneous of like, I heard one person really explain the value proposition of gaming and Web3 integrations. And it clicked for me as a lifelong gamer of instantly like why this made sense. And the same way that YouTube has completely changed the way that we consume media, why blockchain will inevitably be a part of pretty much every single video game in some capacity, obviously some more than others, but that just makes complete and total sense to me. And because of that, slowly but surely, the more use cases I saw for it and the more great people I met in the space, the more I just wanted to dedicate myself to it. And that kind of led to everything else.
I love hearing the stories of when Web3 gaming clicks, because they're all so different. And, mine is different too, because I'm not a lifelong gamer at all. My kids are gamers, and my credit card is attached to Fortnite and Roblox. So, my credit card statements were what made NFTs and gaming click for me.
Amazing.
As a homeschool mom, I was like, let's see if they can figure this out. And it clicked immediately. I didn't have to be a gamer to understand it, which is why I think it's got a lot more potential beyond just gamers understanding it. And speaking of gaming, how did you get into the crypto gaming Illuminati? What was your entry into Neo Tokyo?
Yeah, great question. So again, my brother, obviously consuming Becker content, he was pretty early and was actually able to mint an S1 Neo Tokyo ID. Super diehard on all the tournaments. We were playing Crab Game and PUBG and doing all the stuff. He hired people to play on his behalf in some of the tournaments and was paying like an ETH for a guy to play, PUBG for him and stuff. So he was super into it. And that obviously made me very intrigued. So I was able to mint a S2 Citizen, thankfully, and I still have the same Citizen that I minted all that time ago. And, really it was just Becker, for all of his good qualities and bad qualities, has a way of explaining things that is very simplistic and very understandable, as well as accessible, because he adds humor into it. He doesn't take it too seriously. And at the end of the day, it just sort of makes sense when he describes it. And because of that, plus the vision of what Neo Tokyo is supposed to be, which is, for anybody that's not familiar, it's actually very, very similar to what we aim to be at the Wolves DAO. Just there are some key differences. Like, we only have 300 members. It's been hard capped at that forever. It's application only instead of NFT based and stuff. So there's some key differences, but at the end of the day, we're also trying to get the best possible members that will drive Web3 gaming forward. And so being in both of these organizations at the same time is incredibly valuable to me.
Amazing. And I want to get more into Wolves DAO, but first, I have to know, did you play in the PUBG games to mint your S2?
Yeah, I did. So So this is one of the great shames of my life. But at the time, I was still traveling a bunch, mostly living in an RV, and because of that, I had basically gotten rid of. I'd given my gaming computer to my fiance's little brother, and I only had a laptop at this point. So I literally played the PUBG qualifiers or whatever with my trackpad laptop, and somehow I still placed in like the top 40 out of 100, which was one of the most amazing achievements of my life, but also it was just shameful that I didn't have a proper computer to do it on.
Amazing that you went that far, though. Okay, now before we move on to what you're doing outside of NT, you have been floating around Neo Tokyo for a while. What are you doing inside of Neo Tokyo? How are you using the community?
Yeah, I was just talking with Boomington recently because originally, whenever I reached out to Neo Tokyo, as part of the community, it was primarily through my video background that I wanted to contribute, help with editing or helping with, content-based projects, which I think you've done a wonderful job of. And, for better or for worse, my Web3 journey has primarily taken me outside of Neo Tokyo, which is a little bit disheartening to me, but at the same time, I still see it as an extremely long-term relationship. Like, I'm not looking to sell my citizen, and I think we're all here for the next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades of our careers in this space. And so because of that, I'm not necessarily in a rush to make everything happen overnight, but I am really excited about getting, even more integrated into the community and really being able to make it a mutually beneficial thing, because I think so many of the shows that I host and stuff, our target audience is people that are in Neo Tokyo and really deeply care about Web3 gaming. And I think that there are more collaborations that I haven't even found yet, which will continue to kind of reveal themselves over the next, like I said, 10, 20 years.
I know I've seen your name floating around a lot. A lot of people are asking the question of how do we use Sam, because you've really been nailing it out there. So I'm sure there's going to be more going on in the future in there. But I want to get into Wolf's DAO, and I'm going to start with the story. I think I've told it to you before. Before I even heard about Wolf's DAO, I went to one of those, like a local Bitcoin meetup. And I was already in Neo Tokyo and doing my crypto thing. And a young man gets up and he gives a presentation, and the presentation is Wolf's DAO. And I can't remember his name right now, but obviously he's one of your community members. And the presentation was amazing. This kid nailed it. He couldn't have been more than 20, 21. He was young, but just well spoken. And I was sold at the end. I was like, what is this Wolf's DAO? And I talked to him after, and he told me all about it and these guys, and yeah, they're in Neo Tokyo, and I like the whole thing. To have it introduced to me in person when I was, already embedded in Neo Tokyo was so exciting for me, because he did such a good job of explaining it. So give us the rundown now. What's Wolf's DAO, and why is your community so fanatic?
Thank you. Yeah, I was so glad to hear that we're being represented well. And I can't remember who that was off the top of my head, but I was living in Northern California at the time, and I remember almost driving out to be there at that event. And unfortunately, I had something come up, so I wasn't able to make it. But good to know that we're still being represented well out there in the wilds. Yeah, so the Wolves DAO was originally founded by Peyton Calavajea, who he actually made it as part of his YouTube community, and it was called the Cyber Wolves at some point, and before that, it was called like Alpha Gaming Extreme 100 to 0 or something, just like an awful name. And he laughs about this all the time as well. And eventually he decided, you know what, it shouldn't just be about alpha and, number going up. I actually think it should be more about, doing research and kind of finding like-minded people. So he renamed it to the Cyber Wolves. And that was whenever I found it. And it already had its application process, but it didn't have this hard cap that we've developed since then. And its ideology was a bit more malleable. It was kind of unformed at that point. But Peyton has a background in the Navy, and he really believes in the idea of Kaizen, which is, we're family, but like iron sharpens iron, and we shouldn't always feel pressured to agree. We should actually feel like we need to have contrasting points of view because that'll lead us to the answer more often than not. And so we all sort of gathered around this idea of like, we're supporting each other, but also we want to push each other to be better. And eventually we decided to pivot to be the Wolves DAO, which many people say, well, you're not really a DAO. And that's a fair criticism. But what our response is to that is we kind of fall into the definition of a social DAO, which is, yes, whenever we try to make decisions as an organization, we don't do an entire vote where you get, however many tokens or whatever that you hold, which we have none of, you get X amount of authority in this vote. We actually are decentralizing our opinions. So if you see like a review come out from us, that's because we put out a form in the Discord. We said, please, fill this out if you've played this game, give us your input, and then we, average out the sentiment of each of our members to be the Wolves DAO's opinion on a game. So sometimes people reach out to me and they say, oh, why didn't you feature us in that list? Or why aren't we in this article? Or why didn't you mention us in this thread? And it's because, well, none of our members mentioned you in the thread. And it's irresponsible for me to say, oh, well, I know, Immutable did something or Avalanche did something, so I'm going to put it in there. It's just not how it works. Since the sort of evolution of Wolves DAO, though, it's been pretty incredible to see what happened. I mean, at some point, even in the bear market, we were getting like, on average, 6 messages per person per day. So the activity was just incredible. And we actually get stronger as the market gets worse because people aren't so pulled away by things that have monetary incentive. So they end up coming back and really refining their ideas about the space, what they want to accomplish, who they want to bring in as, team members or collaborators or partnerships. And because of that, it's just, it's a great home base for everybody because it's unbiased. We have no real agenda because at the end of the day, we don't really monetize that hard. One of the big things that we were able to accomplish this past year as well was the Wolves Den, which was an activation at GDC where we had over 100 members come. We did it for the community. So if you were, in the area and you knew somebody in the Wolves DAO, chances were you were going to be able to get into the events. The Lumo was public, so you were able to apply. We had some public events, some private events. But it was really incredible to see how much people respected and appreciated the Wolves DAO, which I think really culminated on Tuesday night. We did an event that we called Alpha Night. And during that event, we invited 15 different founders to come and give us 5 minutes each of alpha that they weren't allowed to stay online. So no phones were allowed in the area. We had a strong rule of if you're not actually giving us alpha, we're actually going to kick you off stage. And so many people, announced coins, announced NFT collections, told us about their future marketing campaigns, gave us insight that people are killing for online, but they were in that space physically with us, being willing to kind of, be vulnerable. And nothing negative came out of it. Nobody leaked it online. It wasn't a negative experience from any of the founders from what I've heard. And it really just forged that bond even deeper with all those people that came out. So it's great to see, the community continuing to get stronger instead of weaker.
I'm so glad to hear that Wolves DAO is still going so strong because I had such a good first impression. And I know I see you guys on my Twitter thread constantly. Give us a rundown of your podcast, Gamified and Simplified.
Yeah, so they're live Twitter spaces that we do every Monday and Wednesday. They are podcasts as well, though. They're available on Spotify. So if anybody wants to check it out after I'm done describing it, it's you just search Gamified on Spotify. But really, I came up with Gamified, whenever we were in the depths of the bear market, 2023 in February, and I would go on Twitter desperately craving like somebody to actually have some enthusiasm or passion about the space, and it was just dead. And the only person that was still making content was Jonah was doing AMAs with businesses. So people that I think he was vetting as clients, he would bring on and do like a 60-minute AMA where he would ask pretty compelling questions. He was definitely, the best AMA person, but so many of them were just savagely boring. Like it was insane how shilly they were. Everything was only about the NFT collection that was coming up. And there was no real actually beneficial information as far as like I'm learning and being educated. It just felt like I'm learning about an NFT collection that I might make money on. And I just found that to be completely disheartening, um, because I like the space. I like the technology. I like video games. I like the people. I don't just like NFT collections and numbers going up. And so if it kind of felt like there was just this giant gap in Web3 gaming where nobody was actually talking about Web3 gaming. They were just talking about financials. And so that inspired me to take a bunch of the knowledge that I have from, my content backgrounds, and then combine a bunch of elements from my favorite game shows growing up and my favorite sports shows like Pardon the Interruption and Around the Horn, The Price is Right, etc. And basically, Gamified is 6 gamified segments over 2 hours. So every 15 minutes or so, because there's some ad reads and stuff in there, we cover another thing that's either topical or evergreen. An evergreen thing might be about, your favorite console, your favorite video game, whatever it may be. Then the topical stuff is, what's going on in fundraising in Web3 gaming, what's going on with this new game release, this new play to airdrop campaign, this new style of go to market that we're seeing, be more pervasive in the industry. And we bring on the best founders in the world to talk about it. I really consider myself and my shows to be primarily more B2B than they are B2C. So gamers will not get as much from it as, founders in the space will, or people that are working as marketing directors or content creators, et cetera, will, because that's primarily who's here. And that's primarily who's trying to become more and more educated and not just worried about token price going up. But because of that, I think every episode ends up being tremendously educational. And for that, I really only have to thank all of the amazing people that give me their time. We have 8 to 10 experts on the panel every single week on both shows. And it's just incredible, the camaraderie that they've built by being on the panel, but also the amount of things that they're willing to discuss, again, in public. Like we had Wild Paul, the founder of Wildcard. He literally said, I am going to announce the newest stuff coming from our product on Gamified. He said that last week. He goes, I'm not ready quite yet, but before 2049 in Singapore, I will be making major announcements on Gamified, because I think you guys have done so much for the space. And that was just tremendously meaningful to me, because Paul, by virtue of giving me his expertise for hours and hours every single week for the past 50 weeks or whatever it's been, has given so much to me and the Wolves DAO. So to know that it's mutually beneficial is just insanely meaningful to me. And that's what I want to keep doing for, everybody in the space that feels like I do. Like they want to be educated, but also entertained, because those things are not mutually exclusive. And that's what I learned from our experience in dance as well,
I love that explanation, and I'm going to go check it out. I also like that you kind of call it a B2B podcast, because that's kind of why we're all here, even though this is a community of originally gamers. Everyone's building something now, and it's a different mindset and a different audience. So it's good to hear that the podcast is geared toward that. Now, for citizens in Neo Tokyo, we're all kind of networking here, seeing what we can sort of extract and give to one another. What would you say is your main expertise? If a citizen wanted to reach out for advice or pick your brain for something, what's your go-to skill?
Man, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I love providing value to people. So if anybody's listening and is curious, don't hesitate to reach out. I am a little bit behind on the DMs. So if I ignore you for a couple of days, I'm not ghosting you. I'm just exhausted, but in a good way. With that being said, I think content is obviously my bread and butter. I've been doing it for over a decade at this point. I'm an advisor for 7 different games and products in the space, primarily on marketing and content, but also a little bit on community and sort of how to go to market and understanding how people will perceive what they're going to market with. With that being said as well, shout out to the Wolves DAO. They are so incredible about absorbing and digesting things and then giving targeted feedback back out. And they do some advisory as well. But for me personally, if anybody wants to message me about content or monetizing, like monetizing is a thing that I think people sort of ironically undervalue, right? They just focus on how many followers do you have? but very rarely do they focus on when they have 0 followers. I have this great idea for content, but you should be thinking about how does that content monetize? Because so often I see people grow the following and then they're like, well, shit, now I have to monetize. And I'm like, yeah, but you built something that is inherently unmonetizable, right? A good example of this is, for instance, like somebody who makes money off of React videos. If you're reacting to somebody else's content, there's a ton of copyright issues where you can't monetize, you can't have sponsors, etc. So you've built this thing, congratulations, but it's actually worth nothing except for it builds your personal brand a bit. So I've built my shows specifically, like the B2B focus is because I want it to be monetizable. And I built a sponsorship structure basically where I can have 3 sponsors at the same time and nobody feels bad about it because they all fill different gaps in the sponsorship sort of packaging. And because of that, I've actually been shocked that nobody has taken the same model and implemented it on their shows because I just simply haven't seen it done. Everybody has 1 sponsor where I'm able to have 3. So I think unique solutions like that to problems that people are facing is something that I am able to provide some maybe interesting perspective on because of my background.
And that's an excellent skill to have because we really have an overflowing amount of creators and talent just in this space. But monetizing is always the question that comes back. Someone can have 100,000 followers and 1,000 episodes on their podcast and still have no clue how to make money off of it.
Right.
It's not as easy as it sounds. So good to know. Now, I was scrolling your Twitter your ex, before we got on here. And I see a little teaser and I have to ask, but you don't have to answer. GamesG Awards. Are you going to be hosting them?
I'm trying to. I've been talking to both YGG and Omar from GamesGG for quite a while about it. And, it seems like there's good alignment there. I did win their Content Creator of the Year award last year, so I think they might be a little bit nervous about me having to give an award to myself, or it might be awkward if I lose and I have to announce that I lost or something. So we might have to bring somebody in for that segment. But yeah, I would love to go out to the Philippines to meet all the amazing people that make YGG as special as it is. I'm a huge fan of Yield Guild, and to be able to host my first real long form live event and to make it them, they're also supporting me in my 24-hour live stream that I have going on for charity. So me and GamesGG have a great relationship, and it would just be really special to me to be able to host that, and also to be able to hand awards to so many of the games that I love and have relationships with. It would just be a really special event.
Amazing. Well, you have our vote. And
thank you.
You there. And let's, for our final question, step outside of our digital world and give us a rundown of you outside of work. What are your hobbies, outside interests, something we can all relate to?
Oh, I love this question. Something that a problem that I have with the space is so often we can't really talk about this kind of stuff, but I love psychology. I love self-improvement. I love cooking. As I was a chef a long time ago, and I still cook all the time. I cook pretty much every meal for me and my fiance. I love golfing. I love going outside. I was a photographer for a few years. I still do a bunch of videography. And so, I'd love to have conversations about any of this stuff. If people are ever interested, feel free to slide in my DMs and we'll chop it up about, cognitive behavioral therapy or something. But there's so much that I would love to be able to enjoy. Now, football as well, right around the corner. I'm a huge Steelers fan. My parents grew up outside of Pittsburgh, so super excited for this season. And
I love it. A lot of psychology and self-improvement pros here in the Citadel. It's a common answer to our outside interest. And I love to hear it. It's so important. And we're going to wrap this up. This is Sarah, Block Editor. Today we had Sam, Steffanina, and we're going to be back next week with another episode.